Morgan watched as Benji, who insisted on traveling the circuitous route to convince himself all was well, everyone was happy, deftly overlooked the note of strain in their voices. "See?" he said, triumphant. "Told you so." Yet in the ensuing days, the darkness tugged at both their confidences with the finesse of a magician whisking a tablecloth out from beneath a dining set. As their union drew nearer, preparations hovered in midair, threatening collapse, and neither party slept. 2. Alice Weil awoke in a panic, feeling the bedside table for his phone. He swiped to his savings account. No, one more minute of sleep. He burrowed deeper into the comforter, clinging to the last shreds of oblivion. Fat chance. He threw off the covers. The room swam to him in the morning light. The trophies, the school pennants, the Hardy Boys books stacked upon the writing desk. Alienly, these objects hovered, until Nick remembered he was in Maine, in his childhood bedroom, and their strange forms resolved. 2 days until his son's wedding. The drive from Westchester to Maine had taken 8 hours, with an unexpected detour into New Hampshire when the SUV's gas light blinked yellow. For 40 miles, Nick had been without cell service, a deprivation that left him nervy, on edge, snapping at Caro when she suggested they play the license plate game. He pulled over as soon as the bars reappeared, saying he had to send an email. In reality, he only wished to monitor the grim performance of his stock portfolio. He begrudged every gas pump, every toll. Shouldn't a man be able to traverse his own goddamn country without the burden of compensating all 50 states? Were not said states united, after all? By the time they arrived at his mother's house, the razor of a migraine had carved a deep incision into his skull. They were greeted at the door by his mother's aide, Raina, a former nurse who'd cared for many elderly patients and so knew the routine well. The flurry of initial visits that gradually tapered off to the occasional holiday appearance as the adult child weaned themselves from their parents' love. 11 guilt-charged months had passed since Nick himself had last ventured here. Up the 3 flights, Nick ushered his young wife, younger, not young, Caro would amend, and their 6-year-old daughter Avery, his eyes crossed with exhaustion. Quads aflame, he collapsed onto the chenille bedspread while Caro tucked Avery away in the guest room. When she returned, she hesitated by the window, moonlight spreading over her like zinc. "Do you want to... maybe," she said. She slid a hand into his briefs, breathlessly adding, "We'll make it fast." This morning, Nick was relieved to find himself alone, the voices of Caro and Avery drifting up through the ancient floorboards. He performed the usual rituals, checking his trading accounts, abysmal, and crypto wallet, even worse. Next, he navigated to the dreaded Citibank app, whose digits laid bare the incontestable horrors of recent months. His phone dinged with a reminder that he'd soon have to retrieve Benji and Morgan from the airport. In not 2 hours, this weekend would lurch inexorably forward through the dark tunnel that awaited. He tugged on his jeans. The insects outside the dormer window were already in a tizzy. Sunbeams streamed through the space, illuminating the frayed edges of the wallpaper. The entire room was marooned in a bygone era. Sony's stereo system in the corner, flip clock on the bedside table, a TV in whose VCR he'd once, in a pinch, discarded a condom. Did he dare check? The shelves upon which he'd once proudly displayed his trophies now housed an array of peanut butter and tomato sauce jars. Downstairs, the garage held enough water bottles to quench a small village. He resented his mother's scarcity mindset because he knew he possessed it too, a fear that at any moment the winds would change, whisking everything away. A metallic clatter alerted him to Matisse, his brindle-coated dog, who was much more than a pet. Matisse stood a regal 50 pounds, with ears that perked into triangles even when he was exhausted. He had one lazy eye, the other shrewd. 2 observers on either side of him might assume rivaling...